Good morning, friends. I cannot believe it's been such a long time since we've been on. Thank you so much for being here with us. You can see Jack's in the background back there, chewing on his toy. So my mom was here for a couple days, and we had such a blast, but that means that we have not read in forever. So we are really, really behind. So I'm just gonna start reading and try to get as far as we can. Like legit, I think we're like 16 chapters behind, so that's really bad. I was like, I'm just gonna take a break. Well, that doesn't really work out very well when you're trying to read through the entire Bible. So we'll see how much we get done today, and then we might just be kind of like adding more to other days until we catch up, right? Because it's all about obedience, as imperfect as it may be. So if we have to just figure it out, we're going to figure it out. That's what we do, right? Make it work. So we were almost done with chapter 11. We have a tiny, tiny bit left. So if you want to read with me, that's where we're going to be. If you just want to listen to me read, that's fine too. And I will just go until we stop. That's very definitive. I will go until we stop. Yeah, okay. And now, Israel, what does the Lord your God require of you? He requires you to fear him, to live according to his will, to love and worship him with all your heart and soul, and to obey the Lord's commands and laws I'm giving you today for your own good. The highest heavens of the earth and everything in it belong to the Lord your God. Yet the Lord chose your ancestors as the objects of his love, and he chose you, their descendants, above every other nation, as is evident today. Therefore, cleanse your sinful hearts and stop being stubborn. The Lord your God is the God of gods and Lord of lords. He's the great God, mighty and awesome, and he shows no partiality and takes no bribes. He gives justice to orphans and widows and love to foreigners living among you, and gives them food and clothing. You too must show love to foreigners, for you yourselves were once foreigners in the land of Egypt. You must fear the Lord your God and worship him and cling to him. Your oaths must be in his name alone, for he is your God, the one who is worthy of your praise, the one who has done mighty miracles that you have seen. When your ancestors went down into Egypt, there were only 70 of them. But now the Lord your God has made you as numerous as the stars in the sky. It's actually called the book. When I started reading this, I just grabbed the Bible closest to me, which happened to be my son's, and it's not like an NIV or anything, hence they talk in a way that's much easier to understand. And that was the end of chapter 10. So we're on chapter 11 in Deuteronomy. Yay! Okay. You must love the Lord your God and obey all of his requirements, laws, regulations, and commands. Listen, I'm not talking now to your children who've never experienced the discipline of the Lord your God or seen his greatness and awesome power. They weren't there to see the miraculous signs and wonders he performed in Egypt against Pharaoh and all of his land. They didn't see what the Lord did to the armies of Egypt, to their horses and chariots, and how he drowned them in the Red Sea as they were chasing you. Now he's kept them devastated to this very day. They didn't see how the Lord cared for you in the wilderness until you arrived here. They weren't there to see what he did to Dathan and Abiram, the sons of Eliab, a descendant of Reuben, when the earth opened up and swallowed them and their households and tents and every living thing that belonged to them. But you have all seen the Lord's mighty deeds with your own eyes. Therefore, be careful to obey every command I'm giving you today, so that you may have strength to go in and occupy the land that you're about to enter. If you obey, you will live a long life in the land the Lord swore to give your ancestors, and to you, their descendants, a land flowing with milk and honey. For the land you're about to enter and occupy is not like the land of Egypt from which you came, where you planted your seed and dug out irrigation dishes with your foot in a vegetable garden. It is a land of hills and valleys with plenty of rain, a land that the Lord your God cares for. He watches over it day after day throughout the year. If you carefully obey the commands I'm giving you today, and if you love the Lord your God with all your heart and soul, and if you worship him, then he will send the rains to their proper season, so you can harvest the crops of grains for grapes for wine, and olives for oil. He'll give you lush pasture land for your cattle to graze in, and you yourselves will have plenty to eat. But do not let your heart turn away from the Lord to worship other gods. If you do, the Lord's anger will burn against you. He will shut up the sky and hold back the rain, and your harvest will fail. Then you will quickly die in that good land the Lord is now giving you. So commit yourselves completely to those words of mine. Tie them to your hand as a reminder and wear them on your forehead. Teach them to your children. Talk about them when you're at home and when you're away on a journey, when you're lying down and when you're getting up. Write them on the doorposts of your house and on your gates, so that as long as the sky remains above the earth, you and your children may flourish in the land that the Lord swore to give your ancestors. Be careful to obey all the commands I give you, and show love to the Lord your God by walking in his ways and clinging to him. Then the Lord will drive out all the nations in your land, though they are much greater and stronger than you. Wherever you set your feet, the land will be yours. Your frontiers will stretch from the wilderness in the south to Lebanon in the north, and from the Euphrates River in the east to the Mediterranean Sea in the west. And no one will be able to stand against you, for the Lord your God will send fear and dread ahead of you, as he promised you, wherever you go in the whole land. Today I'm giving you the choice between a blessing and a curse. You'll be blessed today if you obey the commands of the Lord your God that I'm giving you today. You'll receive a curse if you reject the commands of the Lord your God and turn away by worshiping foreign gods. When the Lord your God brings you into this land to possess it, you must pronounce a blessing from Mount Gerizim and a curse from Mount Ebal. These two mountains are west of the Jordan River in the land of the Canaanites who live in the Jordan Valley near the town of Gilgal. They're located towards the west, not far from the oaks of Moreh. For you are about to cross the Jordan to occupy this land the Lord your God is giving you. When you are living in that land, you must be careful to obey all the laws and regulations I'm giving you today. So Untitled Chapter 12 was obey the laws and regulations. Look at Jack's butt. He's trying to get on the couch and he can't. It always takes him forever. So half the time that I look and see him, his butt's just hanging off the edge. Makes me laugh. Anyway, Chapter 12. These are the laws and regulations you must obey as long as you live in the land of the Lord, the God your ancestors is giving you. When you drive out the nations that live there, you must destroy all the places where they worship their gods, high on the mountains, up in the hills, and under every green tree. Break down their altars and smash their sacred pillars. Burn their Asherah poles and cut down their carved idols. Erase the names of their gods from those places. Do not worship the Lord your God in the way these pagan people worship their gods. Rather, you must seek the Lord your God at the place he himself will choose from among all the tribes for his name to be honored. There you will bring to the Lord your burnt offerings, your sacrifices, your tithes, your special gifts, your offerings to fulfill a vow, your freewill offerings, and your offerings of the firstborn animals of your flocks and herds. There you and your families will feast in the presence of the Lord your God, and you will rejoice in all you've accomplished because the Lord your God has blessed you. Today you are doing whatever you please, but that is not how it will be when you arrive in the place of rest that the Lord your God is giving you. You will soon cross the Jordan River and live in the land that your God is giving you as a special possession. When he gives you rest and security from your enemies, you must bring everything I commanded you, your burnt offerings, your sacrifices, your tithes, your special gifts, and your offerings to fulfill a vow, to the place that the Lord your God will choose for his name to be honored. And remember, you must celebrate there with your sons and daughters and all of your servants in the presence of the Lord your God. The Levites who live in your town have no inheritance of land as their own. Be careful not to sacrifice your burnt offerings just anywhere. You may do so only at the place that the Lord will choose within one of your tribal territories. There you must offer your burnt offerings and do everything that I commanded you. Jack still never got on the couch. He just hopped down because he couldn't make it. He's playing with this toy. Okay. But you may butcher animals for meat in any town, wherever you want, just as you do now with gazelle and deer. You may eat as many animals as the Lord your God gives you, and all of you, whether ceremonially clean or unclean, may eat that meat. The only restriction is that you are not to eat the blood. You must pour it out on the ground like water. Ew. Who would want to read the blood? That's so gross. But your offerings must not be eaten at home, neither the tithe of your grain and new wine and olive oil, or the firstborn of your flocks and herds, nor an offering to fulfill a vow, nor your freewill offerings, nor your special gifts. You must eat these in the presence of the Lord your God at the place that he will choose. Eat them there with your children, your servants, and the Levites who live in your town, celebrating the presence of the Lord in all that you do. Be very careful not to forget the Levites as long as you live in your land. When the Lord your God enlarges your territory as he has promised, you may eat meat wherever you want. It might happen that the place that the Lord your God chooses for his name to be honored is a long way from your home. If so, you may butcher any cattle or sheep the Lord has given you, and you may eat the meat at your home as I have commanded you. Anyone, whether ceremonially clean or unclean, may eat that meat, just as you do now with gazelle and deer. The only restriction is to never eat the blood, for the blood is the life, and you must not eat the life with the meat. Ew. Instead, pour out the blood on the ground like water. Do not eat the blood, and then all will go well with you and your children, because you'll be doing what pleases the Lord. Take your sacred gifts and your offerings, given to fulfill a vow, to a place that the Lord chooses to dwell. You must offer the meat and blood of your burnt offerings on the altar of the Lord your God, and the blood of your other sacrifices must be poured out beside the altar of the Lord your God, but you may eat the meat. Be careful to obey all of my commands, so that all will go well with you and your children, because you'll be doing what pleases the Lord your God. When the Lord your God destroys the nations, and you drive them out and occupy their land, do not be trapped into following their example and worshiping their gods. Do not say, how do these nations worship their gods? I want to follow their example. You must do as the Lord You must not do this to the Lord your God. These nations have committed many detestable acts that the Lord hates, and all in the name of their gods. They even burned their sons and daughters as sacrifices to their gods. Carefully obey all the commands I've given you, and do not add or subtract from them. Interesting. Yes, we are reading the Bible. We are in Deuteronomy. That was chapter 12. So we're going to be reading chapter 13 next until we catch up, because I'm a slacker and we're trying to read the whole Bible in a year, but I've been missing because my mom was visiting. And it was so great. So, chapter 13. Suppose there are prophets among you, or those who have dreams about the future, and they promise you signs or miracles, and the predicted signs or miracles take place. If the prophets say, "Come, let us worship the God of these foreign nations," do not listen to them. The Lord your God is testing you to see if you love him with all of your heart and soul. Serve only the Lord your God and fear him alone. Obey his commands, listen to his voice, and cling to him. The false prophets or dreamers who try to lead you astray must be put to death, for they encourage rebellion. Oh, he did it. He got up. They encourage rebellion against the Lord your God, who brought you out of slavery in the land of Egypt. Since they try to keep you from following the Lord your God, you must execute them to remove the evil from among you. Suppose your brother, son, daughter, beloved wife, or closest friend comes to you secretly. Whoa, bruh. That shook the whole ground. And says, "Let's worship other gods, gods that neither you or your ancestors have known." They might suggest that you worship the God of people who live nearby, who have come from the ends of the earth. If they do this, do not give in and listen, and have no pity. Do not spare or protect them. You must put them to death. You must be the one to initiate the execution, and then all the people must join in. Stone the guilty ones to death because they've tried to draw you away from the Lord your God, who rescued you from the land of Egypt, the place of slavery. Then all of Israel will hear about it and be afraid, and such wickedness will never again be done among you. Suppose you hear in one of the towns the Lord your God is giving you that some worthless rabble among you have led their fellow citizens astray by encouraging them to worship foreign gods. In such cases, you must examine the facts carefully. If you find it's true, and you can prove that such a detestable act has occurred among you, you must attack that town and destroy all of its inhabitants as well as the livestock. Then you must pile all the plunder in the middle of the street and burn it. Put the entire town to the torch as a burnt offering to the Lord your God, and that town must remain a ruin forever. It may never be rebuilt. Keep none of the plunder that was set apart for destruction, and then the Lord will turn from his fierce anger and be merciful to you. He'll have compassion on you and make you a great nation, just as he promised your ancestors. The Lord your God will be merciful only if you obey him and keep all the commands I'm giving you today, doing what is pleasing to him. Okay, guys, that sucks. I don't like chapter 13 at all. That's crazy. It doesn't matter if it's your brother, your son, your daughter, your wife. Like, you're responsible for stoning them. I don't want to stone anyone. Like, I think I'd have a really hard time throwing the rock. But the fact that they say, like, you have to do it if it's your husband or your kid, like, how do you do that? How do you do that? And then if somebody in the town is bad, the entire town's going to suffer? Like, that wasn't the other people's fault. That was one person that did something wrong. Why should the whole entire town be burned? If you guys have any thoughts on that, let me know, because that does not seem like something that makes me happy. And back here it said something about the Lord is just and like he's the great God, mighty and awesome, who shows no partiality and takes no bribes. So if he's mighty and awesome and shows no partiality, then why would he just kill the whole town? Like, that is, that doesn't seem right to me. Like, that is showing partiality. You're showing partiality to the one bad person instead of all the good people, right? Because you're lumping them all together. So I don't understand. Like, that doesn't seem just to me, but maybe I'm not understanding it correctly. I feel like as I'm reading through this, there have been a lot of times where I haven't quite understood, and I feel like I've been a Christian, so I thought, okay, we're just going to read the Bible, you know, and it's interesting how there are things in it that I'm like, wait, I don't like that. How do we make that make sense with everything I've been taught my whole life? Welcome. We are reading through the Bible, and we are in Deuteronomy Chapter 14. So yeah, if you guys have any thoughts on that, I would love to hear it, because I think some of this stuff doesn't really make sense to me. Like, why the entire town, right? So, okay, chapter 14. Since you are the people of the Lord your God, never cut yourselves or shave the hair above your forehead for the sake of the dead. You've been set apart as holy to the Lord your God, and he's chosen you to be his own special treasures from all the nations of the earth. You must not eat animals that are ceremonially unclean. These are the animals you may eat: the ox, the sheep, the goat, the deer, the gazelle, the roebuck, the wild goat, the ibex, the antelope, and the mountain sheep. Any animal that has split hooves and chews the cud may be eaten. But if the animal doesn't have both, it may not be eaten. So you may not eat the camel, the hare, or the rock badger. They chew the cud, but they do not have split hooves. And the pig may not be eaten, for though it has split hooves, it does not chew the cud. All these animals are ceremonially unclean for you. You may not eat or even touch the dead bodies of such animals. As for marine animals, you may eat whatever has both fins and scales. You may not, however, eat marine animals that do not have fins and scales. They are ceremonially unclean for you. So, like, no crab or a lobster. There's no scales. What town was destroyed? It does not say. It just says if you hear that somebody has gone astray by worshiping a foreign god, examine the facts carefully, and if you find that it's true, attack the town and completely destroy all of its inhabitants. That was in Deuteronomy Chapter 13. Yeah, I agree. The laws were definitely different. It's true. It's like I understand that we're reading Old Testament and that things totally changed when Jesus came. It's just the part about God being fair and just that is hard for me. You know, like I understand that the laws were different, and I understand that one person broke them. But it seems like if it was really just, then that one person would go to jail, not like kill the entire town. When Lot was saved from the fire and brimstone, he lost his wife. Yes, because she turned around. Yes. His daughters gave him... Wait for it. This is interesting. Right. Yes, I remember that story. That was a very messed up story. Yeah. Because Lot's wife was gone, so his daughters got him drunk, and they each slept with him to have kids because there were no more men. Yeah. Back then, that was what they had to do. Yeah, I would say icky doesn't quite describe it. Okay. All right, hold on. So we were in chapter 14. Let's finish reading that one and we'll get back to this. You may eat any bird that is ceremonially clean. These are the birds you cannot eat: the eagle, the vulture, the osprey, the buzzard, kites of all kind, ravens of all kind, the ostrich, the nighthawk, the seagull, and hawks of all kind. The little owl, the great owl, the white owl, the pelican, the cairn vulture, the cormorant, the stork, the herons of all kind, the hoopoe, and the bat. All flying insects are ceremonially unclean and may not be eaten, but you may eat any winged creature that is ceremonially clean. Do not eat anything that died a natural death. You may give it to a foreigner, you may sell it to the foreigner, but do not eat it yourselves, because you're holy for the Lord your God. And do not boil a young goat in its mother's milk. You must set aside a tithe of your crops, 1/10 of all the crops that you harvest each year. Bring this tithe to the place that the Lord your God chooses for his name to be honored, and eat it there in his presence. This applies to your tithe of grain, wine, olive oil, and the firstborn males of your flocks and herds. The purpose of tithing is to teach you to always fear the Lord your God. Now the place the Lord your God chooses for his name to be honored might be a long way from your home. If so, you may sell the tithe portion of your crops and herds and take the money to the place that the Lord your God chooses. When you arrive, use the money to buy anything you want, an ox, a sheep, some wine or beer, and then feast there in the presence of the Lord your God to celebrate your household. Do not forget the Levites in your community, for they have no inheritance as you do. At the end of every 3rd year, bring all the tithes of your crops and store it in the nearest town. Give it to the Levites who have no inheritance among you, as well as the foreigners, the orphans, and the widows, so that they can eat and be satisfied. Then the Lord your God will bless you in all of your work. So that was 14. Okay, so they were more pure, so they didn't have incest issues. Try not to overthink a lot of it. I had a problem with that myself, and it would confuse me, and I'd have a hard time reading on, not understanding. But the Bible says, lean not on your own understanding, but trust in God and acknowledge him. That actually is very true. I am trying to lean on my own understanding and not just taking it for what it is and trusting that God will help me to understand. Thank you. That is very, very true. All right, chapter 15. At the end of every 7th year, you must cancel your debts, and this is how it must be done. Creditors must cancel the loans they've made to their fellow Israelites. They must not demand payment from their neighbors or relatives, for the Lord's time of release has arrived. The release from debt, however, applies only to your fellow Israelites, not to the foreigners living among you. There should be no poor among you, for the Lord your God will greatly bless you in the land he's giving you as a special possession. You will receive this blessing if you carefully obey the commands of the Lord your God that I'm giving you today. The Lord your God will bless you as he has promised, and you will lend money to the nations but never need to borrow it. You will rule many nations, but they will not rule over you. If there are any poor people in your towns when you arrive at the land that the Lord your God is giving you, do not be hard-hearted or tight-fisted towards them. Instead, be generous and lend them whatever they need. Do not be mean-spirited and refuse someone a loan because the year of release is close at hand. If you refuse to make the loan and the needy person cries out to the Lord, you'll be considered guilty of sin. Give freely and without begrudging, for the Lord your God will bless you in everything you do. There's always some among you who are poor, and that is why I'm commanding you to share your resources freely with the poor and others in need. Hold on. Jack's toy was totally stuck underneath my chair. If an Israelite man or woman voluntarily becomes your servant and serves you for 6 years, in the 7th year you must set the servant free. When you release a male servant, do not send him away empty-handed. Give him a generous farewell of gifts from your flock, your threshing floor, and your winepress. Share with him some of the bounty for which the Lord your God has blessed you. Remember that you were slaves in the land of Egypt, and the Lord your God has redeemed you, and this is why I'm giving you this command. But suppose your servant says, I will not leave you, because he loves you and your family, and he's well off with you. In that case, take an awl and push it through his earlobe into the door, and after that, he'll be your servant for life. You must do the same for your female servants. Do not consider it a hardship when you release your servants. Remember that for 6 years they've given you the services worth double the wages of hired workers, and that the Lord your God will bless you in all of you do. You must set aside for the Lord your God all the firstborn males from your flocks and herds. Do not use the firstborn of your herds to work in the fields, and do not shear the firstborn of your flocks. Instead, you and your family must eat those animals in the presence of the Lord at the place he chooses. But if the firstborn animal has any defect, such as being lame or blind, or if anything else is wrong with it, you must not sacrifice it to the Lord. Instead, use it for food for your family at home, and anyone may eat it, whether clean or unclean, just as anyone may eat a gazelle or a deer. But do not eat the blood. You must pour it out on the ground like water. So, in case, where did that go? In case you guys did not get that, do not eat the blood. He's been very, very, very clear about that. Pour it on the ground like water. We learn as we go. Just ask him for the knowledge and wisdom, and you're doing great. Thank you. We're trying. We are obeying. That's what matters, right? Okay, so we've got that. Anybody can eat gazelle or deer as long as you don't eat the blood. You have to pour out the blood because that is part of their life, and we do not want to be eating their life force. Okay, so chapter 16. In honor of the Lord your God, always celebrate Passover at the proper time in early spring, for that is when the Lord your God brought you out of Egypt by night. Like that TikTok. It cannot always be night, but when it is, God brought you out of Egypt. Your Passover sacrifice may be from either the flock or the herd, and it must be sacrificed to the Lord your God at the place he chooses for his name to be honored. Eat it with bread made without yeast. For 7 days, eat only bread made without yeast, as you did when you escaped from Egypt in such a hurry. Eat this bread, the bread of suffering, so that you will remember the day that you departed from Egypt as long as you live. Let no yeast be found in any house throughout your land for 7 days, and do not let any of the meat of the Passover lamb remain until the next morning. The Passover must not be eaten in the towns the Lord your God is giving you. It must be offered at the place that the Lord your God will choose for his name to be honored. Sacrifice it there as the sun goes down on the anniversary of your exodus from Egypt. Roast the lamb and eat it in the place the Lord your God chooses, and then go back with your tents the next morning. For the next 6 days you may not eat bread made with yeast. On the 7th day the people must assemble before the Lord your God, and no work may be done that day. Count off 7 weeks from the beginning of your grain harvest, and then you must celebrate the festival of harvest to honor the Lord your God. Bring him a freewill offering in proportion to the blessings that you've received from him. It's time to celebrate before the Lord your God at the place he chooses for his name to be honored. Celebrate with your whole family, all your servants, and the Levites from your town, the foreigners, orphans, and widows who live among you. Remember, you were all slaves in Egypt, so be careful to obey these laws. Another celebration, the Festival of Shelters, must be observed for 7 days at the end of the harvest season, after the grain has been threshed and the grapes have been pressed. This festival will be a happy time. This festival will be a happy time of rejoicing. Hold on, where is the puppy? Jack, what are you doing? What are you doing? Were you pulling mom? Can you say hi? Say hi. Oh, there's that cute face. Can you sit? Can you sit, Jack? Sit. Good sit. Look over here. Oh. Say hi, everybody. Hi, everybody. Oh, look how cute you are. Look at that face. Can you catch it? Nope. There's Jack. Reading along. And turning my whole entire chair. Because you're pretty strong, huh? You can get it. You can get it. Jack is gigantic and a huge scaredy cat. Good boy. I almost got it. Good boy. I'm surprised that he did that. He will walk up to a door that's open like this much and not put his head through because he's scared of it. There's a cookie. There he is. Yeah. Okay, I'm going to keep reading while they look at you because it's much more fun. Another celebration, the Festival of Shelters, must be observed for 7 days at the end of the harvest season, after the grain is threshed and the grapes are pressed. This will be a happy time of rejoicing with your family, your servants, and the Levites, foreigners, orphans, and widows from your town. For 7 days, celebrate this festival to honor the Lord your God in the place he chooses. For it is the Lord your God who gives you bountiful harvests and blesses all of your work. Hold on, you have eye junkies, and that is not handsome. There you go. Now everybody can see your handsome face. The festival will be a great time of joy for all. Each year, every man in Israel must celebrate these 3 festivals: the festival of unleavened bread, the festival of harvest, and the festival of shelters. They must appear before the Lord your God at the place he chooses on each of these occasions and bring a gift to the Lord. All must give as they're able, according to the blessings given to them by the Lord your God. Appoint judges and officials for each of your tribes in all the towns the Lord is giving you. They will judge the people fairly throughout the land. You must never twist the justice or show partiality. Never accept a bribe, for bribes blind the eyes of the wise and corrupt the decisions of the godly. Are you coming back? All right. Let true justice prevail so that you may live and occupy the land that the Lord your God is giving you. You must never set up an Asherah pole beside the altar of the Lord your God, and never set up a sacred pillar for worship, for the Lord your God hates them. Did you see how Jack just sauntered over to get that? That's how he gets things all the time. He does not run, he saunters. Okay, chapter 17. Never sacrifice a sick or defective ox or sheep to the Lord your God, for he detests such gifts. Suppose a man or woman among you in one of your towns that the Lord is giving you has done evil in the sight of the Lord, and violated the covenant by serving other gods or worshiping the sun, the moon, or the forces of heaven, which I have strictly forbidden. When you hear about it, investigate the matter thoroughly. If it is true that this detestable thing has been done, then the man or woman must be taken to the gates of the town and stoned to death. But never put a person to death on the testimony of only one witness. There must always be at least 2 or 3 witnesses. The witnesses must throw the first stones, and then all the people will join in. In this way, you'll purge all evil among you. Suppose a case arises in a local court that is too hard for you to decide. For instance, whether someone is guilty of murder or manslaughter, or a difficult lawsuit, or a case involving some kind of assault. Take the case to the place the Lord your God will choose, or the Levitical priest and judge are on duty, and let them hear the case and decide what to do. The decision they make at this place that the Lord chooses will always stand, and you must do exactly what they say. After they have interpreted the law and reached a verdict, the sentence they impose must be fully executed. Do not modify it in any way. Anyone arrogant enough to reject the verdict of the judge or the priest who represents the Lord your God must be put to death. Such evil must be purged from Israel, and everyone will hear about it and act accordingly. Okay, hold on. So they have said over and over and over again that we have to obey these laws to the letter, right? Like, very clearly. If you don't do this, God's going to be very unhappy with you. So I wonder if those exact same judges are the ones that later condemn Jesus. Because it says, do not argue with what they say and all this stuff. So, like, is God setting that up so that when we get to that place that it's like there was no choice? Because people felt like they had to listen? That's really interesting. All right. You will soon arrive in the land that the Lord your God is giving you and conquer it and settle there. Then you may begin to think, we ought to have a king like the other nations around us. If this happens, be sure that you select a king that the Lord your God chooses. You must appoint a fellow Israelite, not a foreigner. The king must not build up a large stable of horses for himself, and he must never send his people to Egypt by horses there. For the Lord has told you they must never return to Egypt. The king must not take many wives for himself, because they will lead him away from the Lord. And he must not accumulate vast amounts of wealth in silver and gold for himself. When he sits on the throne as king, he must copy these laws on a scroll for himself in the presence of Levitical priests, and always keep a copy of the law with him and read it daily as long as he lives. That way he will learn to fear the Lord his God by obeying all the terms of this law. This regular reading will prevent him from becoming proud and acting like he's above his fellow citizens. It will also prevent him from turning away from these commands in the smallest way, and ensure that he and his descendants will reign for many generations in Israel. All right, chapter 18. Remember that the Levitical priests and the rest of the tribe of Levi will not be given an inheritance of land like the other tribes of Israel. Instead, the priests and Levites will eat from the offerings given to the Lord by fire, for that is their inheritance. They will have no inheritance of their own among the Israelites. The Lord himself is their inheritance, just as he promised them. What are you doing, bruh? Hold on. Do you need help? It's over here. It's right there. These are the parts the priest must claim as their share from the oxen and sheep that the people bring as offerings. You must also give the priest the first share of the grain, the wine, the olive oil, and the wool at shearing time. For the Lord your God chose the tribe of Levi out of all of your tribes to minister in the Lord's name forever. Any Levite who so desires may come from any town in Israel, from wherever he is living, to the place the Lord chooses, and may minister there in the name of the Lord his God, just like his fellow Levites who are serving the Lord there. He may eat his share of the sacrifices and offerings, even if he has a private source of income. When you arrive in the land that the Lord your God is giving you, be very careful not to imitate the detestable customs of the nations living there. For instance, never sacrifice your son or daughter as a burnt offering. Always a good rule. Never kill your kids. Do not let your people practice fortune-telling or sorcery, or allow them to interpret omens or engage in witchcraft, or cast spells, or function as mediums or psychics, or call forth the spirits of the dead. Anyone who does these things is an object of horror and disgust to the Lord. It is because the other nations have done these things that the Lord your God will drive them out ahead of you. You must be blameless before the Lord your God. The people you are about to displace consult with sorcerers and fortune-tellers, but the Lord your God forbids you to do such things. No. Do not chew on my chair. No. Where's your toy? You can chew on this, and you can chew on this, not on my chair. Not sure what Jack thinks that this is. We are reading in the book. It's one of the, I don't know what kind of Bible it would be considered. I don't think it's an NIV, but it's made for kids, so like it's easier to understand. It belongs to my 14-year-old. And we are in chapter 18, almost done with chapter 18. So it says, the Lord your God will raise up for you a prophet like me from among your fellow Israelites, and you must listen to that prophet. For this is what you and yourselves requested of the Lord your God when you were assembled at Mount Sinai. You begged that you would never have to listen to the voice of the Lord your God or see his fire for fear that you would die. So the Lord said to me, fine, I will do as they've requested. I will raise up a prophet like you from among the fellow Israelites. I will tell them that prophet what to say, and he will tell the people everything I command him. I will personally deal with anyone who will not listen to the messages the prophet proclaims on my behalf. But any prophet who claims to give a message from another God, who falsely claims to speak for me, must die. You may wonder, how do we know whether the prophecy is from the Lord or not? And if the prophet predicts something in the Lord's name and it does not happen, the Lord did not give the message. The prophet has spoken on his own and does not need to be feared. Okay, chapter 19. Ezekiel 23:20 is my favorite verse. Please read it. I'm not sure where Ezekiel is in the Bible. So hold on a minute so I can figure it out. We are not there yet. So Ezekiel is page 801. That is about halfway through the Old Testament, in case you guys were wondering. So Ezekiel no, that's Esther. Oh, come on. You guys might not get to read from Ezekiel. What was around it? Ezekiel's writ before Lamentations. It's after Psalms. Okay, I didn't go far enough. There it is. Ezekiel what? 23:20. Hold please, we're having a pause to read Ezekiel 23:20. I'm a little bit worried. This chapter is called The Adultery of Two Sisters. Are you just messing with me, trying to get me to read something terrible? 23:20 says, she lusted after lovers whose attentions were gross and bestial. There you go. I hope that made you happy. We're going to go back to Deuteronomy now. Okay. So, I know, Jack. That just was not very polite, was it? I know. Is your toy stuck? There you go, boo. Sorry, guys. Okay. The dog is down below me. What? I gave it back to you. Every time that I turn this thing, it does not want to stay, and I keep turning it so that they can see you. There. The Lord your God will soon destroy the nations whose land he's giving you, and you will displace them and settle in their towns and homes. Then you must set apart 3 cities of refuge in the land that the Lord your God is giving you to occupy. Divide the land the Lord your God is giving you into 3 districts, one of these cities in each district, and keep the roads to these cities in good repair, so that anyone who has killed someone can flee there for safety. If someone accidentally kills a neighbor without harboring any previous hatred, the slayer may flee to these cities and be safe. For example, suppose someone goes to the forest with a neighbor to cut wood, and suppose one of them swings the axe and the axe head flies off the handle, killing the other person. In such cases, the slayer could flee to one of the cities of refuge and be safe. If the distance to the nearest city of refuge is too far, an enraged avenger might be able to chase down and kill the person who caused the death. Jack. It's over here, Boo. Have this. We're almost done. He's really not thrilled. Do you like how they just said, if you are in the woods and you have an axe that flies off of the handle, that might not be your fault? Like, what a random example. You're in the woods and your axe flies off the handle. Okay. So if the person can catch them and kill them, the slayer would die even though there was no death sentence and the first death was an accident. That's why I'm commanding you to set aside 3 cities of refuge. If the Lord your God enlarges your territory as he solemnly promised your ancestors and gives you the land he promised them, you must designate 3 additional cities. He will give you this land if you obey all the commands I've given you, if you always love the Lord your God and walk in his ways. That way you'll prevent the death of innocent people in the land the Lord your God is giving you as a special possession, and you will not be held responsible for murder. Suppose someone hates a neighbor and deliberately ambushes and murders that neighbor and then escapes to one of the cities of refuge. In that case, the leaders of the murderer's hometown must have the murderer brought back from the city of refuge and handed over to the dead person's avenger to be killed. Do not feel sorry for that murderer. Purge the guilt of murder from Israel so that all may go well with you. When you arrive in the land that the Lord your God is giving you as a special possession, never steal someone's land by moving the boundary markers as your ancestors set up their property. Never convict anyone of a crime on testimony of just one witness. The facts of the case must be established by the testimony of 2 or 3 witnesses. If malicious witnesses come forward and accuse someone of a crime, then both the accuser and the accused must appear before the priest and the judge who are on duty before the Lord. They must be closely questioned, and if the accuser is found to be lying, the accuser will receive the punishment intended for the accused. In this way, you will cleanse such evil from among you. Those who hear about it will be afraid to do such an evil thing again, and you must never show pity. This rule is to be life for life, eye for eye, tooth for tooth, hand for hand, foot for foot. So don't lie about it. Okay. Chapter 20. When you go out to fight your enemies and you face horses and chariots and an army greater than your own, do not be afraid. The Lord your God, who brought you safely out of Egypt, is with you. Before you go into battle, the priest will come forward to speak with the troops, and he will say, "Listen to me, all you men of Israel. Do not be afraid as you go out to fight today. Do not lose heart or panic, for the Lord your God is going with you, and he will fight for you against your enemies, and he will give you victory." Jack, wait. We're almost done. Come here. We might be done after this chapter. We've been reading for a long time, and Jack's ready to go outside. Okay. He will give you victory. Come here, Jack. Then the officers of the army will address the troops and say, "Has anyone just built a new house but not yet dedicated it? If so, go home. You might be killed in the battle and someone else will dedicate your house. Has anyone just planted a vineyard but not yet eaten any of its fruits? If so, go home. You might die in battle and someone else would eat from it. Has anyone just become engaged? Well, go home and get married. You might die in the battle and someone else would marry your fiancé. Then the officers will also say, "Is anyone terrified? If you are, go home before you frighten anyone else." When the officers have finished saying this to their troops, then they will announce the names of the unit commanders. How can there be that many people left? As you approach the town to attack it, first offer its people terms for peace. If they accept your terms and open the gates to you, then all the people inside will serve you in forced labor. If they refuse to make peace and prepare to fight, then you must attack the town. When the Lord your God hands it over to you, kill every man in the town, but you may keep for yourselves all the women, children, livestock, and other plunder. You may enjoy the spoils of your enemies that the Lord has given you, but these instructions apply only to distant towns, not the towns of the nations nearby. As for the towns of the nations the Lord your God is giving you as a special possession, destroy every living thing in them. You must completely destroy the Hittites, Amorites, Canaanites, Perizzites, Hivites, and Jebusites, just as the Lord your God has commanded you. They will keep the people of the land from teaching you their detestable customs and the worship of their gods, which would cause you to sin deeply against the Lord your God. When you're besieging a town and the war drags on, do not destroy the trees. Interesting. Eat the fruit, but do not cut down the trees. They are not enemies that need to be attacked. But you may cut down trees that you know are not valuable for food and use them to make equipment you need to besiege the town until it falls. So like the in Lord of the Rings, whenever the trees come to life, they're friends. It is interesting how people have said the Lord of the Rings is based on the Bible, how much of this is in there, right? Like, that's kind of crazy. Hey, how about you stop trying to dig on the floor? There's nothing there. You can't dig on the floor, bro. Alright, Jack. No. This is the last chapter that we're going to read because Jack is losing his mind. What? What? Why are you digging? You can't dig on the floor. There's nothing there. Suppose someone is found murdered in a field in the land the Lord your God is giving you, and you don't know who committed the murder. In such cases, your leaders and judges must determine which town is nearest to the body. And then the town has a young cow that has never been trained. We're almost done. You can't wake up Dad. Shh. Come here. Find a cow that's never been trained or yoked to a plow, and lead it to a valley that is neither plowed nor planted, with a stream running through it. And then there must break the cow's neck. The Levitical priests must go there also, for the Lord your God has chosen to minister to them. Okay, we're almost done. Sorry. Okay, chosen to minister to them before him and to pronounce blessings in the Lord's name. And they're all to decide the lawsuits and punishments. The leaders of the town nearest the body must wash their hands over the young cow whose neck was broken. Then they must say, our hands did not shed this blood, nor did we see it happen. O Lord, forgive your people Israel who you have redeemed, and do not charge your people Israel with the guilt of murdering an innocent person. Then they'll be absolved of all the guilt of this person's blood. By following these instructions and doing what's right in the Lord's sight, you'll cleanse the guilt of murder from your community. Suppose you go to war against your enemies, and the Lord your God hands them over to you, and you take captives. Suppose you see among the captives a beautiful woman, and you're attracted to her and want to marry her. If this happens, you may take her to your home, where she must shave her head, cut her fingernails, and change all of her clothes. Okay. Jack, come here. Come. Shave her head. That's very interesting. I wonder why that is. Then she must remain in your home for a full month, mourning her father and mother. After that, you may marry her. But if you marry her and then decide you do not like her, you must let her go free. You may not sell her or treat her as a slave, for you have humiliated her. Jack, come here. We're not done yet. We're almost done. Come. Come. Suppose a man has 2 wives, and he loves one and not the other, and both have given him sons. Suppose the firstborn son is the son of the wife that he does not love. When the man divides the inheritance, he may not give the larger inheritance to his younger son, the son of the wife he loves. Jack, no. Come. Come here. Come. We're almost done. Good boy. He must give the customary double portion to his oldest son, who represents the strength of his father's manhood and who owns the rights of the firstborn son, even though he's the son of the father does not love. Hey, chill. We're almost done. Suppose a man has a stubborn, rebellious son, dog, who will not obey his father and mother even though they discipline him. In such cases, the father and mother must take the son before the leaders of the town and declare, this son of ours is stubborn and rebellious and refuses to obey. He's a worthless drunkard. Oh, no, we're not going to do that. Then all the men of the town must stone him to death. In this way, you'll cleanse the evil from among you, and Israel will hear about it and be afraid. Talk about listening and obeying your father and mother. Oh my gosh. If someone has committed a crime worthy of death and is executed and hanged on a tree, the body must never remain on the tree overnight. You must bury the body that same day, for anyone hanging on a tree is cursed of God. Do not defile the land that the Lord is giving you as a special possession. Okay, that was chapter 21. we're going to stop there because Jack is really done and we have read a ton today. So tomorrow we will catch up even more. I've got a ton of work to do because I have not been doing anything since my mom was here. So thank you guys so much for being here with us. That was a lot. I really, really appreciate you sticking it out. Thank you for your words and your comments and just for being here. I appreciate you. And we will see you tomorrow. I'm going to go let the dog outside because he really needs to go to the bathroom. Have a fantastic Monday. Thanks, friends.